everybody to our economic development budget hearing session. You all know we started this last year where we brought folks together that multiple community partners that work in an area of strategic focus for the county commission. And we use these budget hearings not just as a, line item number review of the budget, but as a chance to check in on the status and the state of these partners and economic development work in our community. And then we will reserve a little time here at the end to review any supplemental requests, which this year we have a request from the chamber and from Eudora, the Eudora chamber, the Lawrence chamber and the Eudora chamber. So I don't know if Laverne or Kevin or somebody would like to just start off and kind of talk to us about kind of how things are going, and just be mindful that we've got about like 5 folks here that all may want to say a few words as well. So I'll just turn it over to you all.
I'd be glad to say a couple things and get started. We're back. We have class. I mean, that's the biggest news is we started classes back on May 4th. We were very fortunate that many of our programs, particularly our apprenticeships, were not scheduled to have classes this summer. So they are going this summer and they're all getting caught up. We have had a good revenue first quarter. We were about 50% of our budget after the first quarter on our tuition revenue, instructional revenue. However, we do know, as you know, we lost API, and we're working diligently to get someone in here in their place. And hopefully we'll have some news on a couple possibilities in the next few weeks. Other than that, we are enrolling folks. We have classes starting. We start classes every week here in some programs, for example, commercial driving. And we are in full swing with our new program that some of you know about, the Rise Douglas County, about raising income and security and equity. And we have about 9 in the last week. 9 folks are entering the school based on that program. And in addition, we also are starting to see some donations coming in to support it. Gene Fritzl Construction Company made a donation to us yesterday of $5,000. So and that was great. And so I think we'll see others that want to support this. And just for the basics of this, if a person lost their job due to COVID-19 or qualify as low income and are Douglas County residents, they can attend a program here at Peasley at no cost. Up until we designated that we're going to try to spend up to $200,000 to help folks. And we're really thinking the big push will come in about 26 days when that last $600 a week payment goes out. And folks that come to the reality that their jobs they were in aren't going to come back. And as we've seen regularly in the last few weeks, we have restaurants permanently closing, pretty much announced 2 or 3 a week, it seems like right now. And so that is one of our focus groups that we want to try to help get retrained into livable wage jobs. That's kind of what I have as far as an overview. I mean,
that's a great update, Kevin. And I think we, ways that we can partner to do more to help promote that program and get the word out about that potential. My assumption is you're still hearing from employers that they really want to, they need to hire for the folks, the skills that you train for.
As many people as we're getting calling about needing to get trained for jobs, we're getting more from companies going, I need an electrician, I need a plumber, I need a facilities maintenance person. There's a terrible shortage of skilled labor in Douglas County. Thank you.
So Sarah, do you want B2BC to go next?
That would be great.
Okay. So Adam is we have a few slides which we'll share with you here in a few minutes, but I wanted to, Kevin, your report was really helpful and useful. And I guess I would just introduce this by saying our experience has been at BTBC has been exactly the same this year. In spite of COVID and all of the interruption, it's been really pretty remarkable, the resilience of our companies. In fact, we're getting ready for our quarterly board meeting next week, and we are going to report that our companies have achieved the job count projection that we made for the year as of the end of June. So we have already achieved and have exceeded by one the number of jobs that we thought our companies would add this year. And that's happened, in the last several months as well as in the first quarter of the year. So we're seeing the same kind of thing, and really appreciate knowing that what PISA is experiencing is not dissimilar from what BTBC companies are doing. Adam, I'll just let you I know you have some metric slides you were going to share with people, and you can just kind of roll into that.
Sure, and I don't know that I'm able to share them on here, but I think I sent them over. So if they weren't distributed, I can send them later as well. So they were just, we measure ourselves by our metrics, how many companies we have.
We might be able to give you co-host responsibility so you could share it on a screen if you want. So I don't know if.
I'm going to try it.
I gave Adam permission.
Oh.
So let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
So right there, you can see our metrics. This is kind of how we measure ourselves. These are the metrics we report to our board every quarter. And so we started the year with 55 companies. We've added one. We think there's been some limitations due to COVID. Companies are working remotely, so they're not anxious to get into new space, but we're also restricted by the fact that we're 100% full at our main facility. So those two things have kind of limited our company growth, but we've had, like Laverne said, good job growth. We've had 29 new jobs this year, which we projected 28 in the entire year. So some of that has been COVID related. The loosening of the workforce for some of our companies has been a benefit. So they've been able to go out and hire talent that wasn't available prior to COVID. So, the fact that our companies are resilient and are hiring through this, I think is a testament to the kind of companies that we're really building here at the BTBC. And then you can see our total payroll is 22 million, and that's been on the same trajectory as jobs. And then you can see our historic growth through our company's jobs and payroll through our 10 years of existence. The next one will be phase 3, but before that, some of the other things that have been nice through the COVID is the city county incentive fund has come in handy to fill a gap for companies that need an abatement or have requested a rent deferral. And so we've used that, and there hasn't been a lot. It's been less than $10,000, but that money has been used to help some of those companies, which has been essential. And that's a great tool for us to go out and not only, provide those abatements, but also provide incentives for companies to grow as well. So we thank you for that money, and we think it's an important tool that we have in our arsenal to help recruit and create companies. So it's really important. The main thing we've been working on this past year is phase 3, our next phase of growth. It's a 66,000 square foot building. You can see a rendering there. And so we're trying to finalize the capital for that. An important piece of that is the county's commitment to that capital. We've been able to leverage the county's commitment to raise an additional $800,000 for an equity piece that is vital to this project. And so we thank you for that. It's been important. And we see the leverage impact of the funding that you guys give us. So it's really, the multiple that helps out the most. So we appreciate that as well. Just an update, we're going after EDA funding. We're kind of in the final steps of that. The last response we got was we were selected through the competitive process. And so we're kind of working through the final information and getting them the final documentation. So we're hopeful within the next couple of weeks, we'll get an announcement of a final award. That money is about $7.8 million. So pretty significant money for the project. The project's $24 million project. You can see it'll create another 12 to 18 companies, 250 employees, $12 to $15 million in annual payroll. And then you can see the breakdown of office, wet lab, common core, total building. And then you can see leasable square footage. We're trying to hit 60%. That's kind of been our mark since the beginning. You can see down here we have internal prospects committed of 20,000, over 20,000 square feet. We're working on our last one. It's an external prospect, a public company out of California, to take another 14,500. And once we get that, we'd be about 80% pre-leased. So we're kind of in the final stages of shoring that up, you know, and consider a 14 to 16 month construction timeline. We think it's possible to have that last 20% filled up as well. So really good. And you can see that we're trying to refinance some KUEA debt as well from phase 1 and 2 as part of that financing package. And then you can see some more renderings of the project. So in addition to that, we're also working on longer term planning. The research and business park here on West Campus is something we're focused on. So as phase 3 gets built and we need more capacity, we're already looking at phase 4, 5, 6. What does a 20-year run of BTBC and the business and research park on West Campus look like? So we've been intently focused on that as well. And then finally, you know, I just want to, you know, say the unique coalition that we have with the county and the city, KU and the Chamber of Commerce, has been really essential for our success, and the collaboration between those groups has been important for us. So we appreciate your support in that collaboration as well. Any questions about any of the projects, the phase 3 project or long-term planning, job metrics? Laverne, anything I missed?
I don't think, commissioners, it might interest you to know, Adam alluded to this, that the financial support that we get from you is really important to us in raising additional funding. You saw that with the phase 3 project, the commitment that you and both the city made, we were able to leverage with additional dollars with the Department of Commerce. Just so that you know, we've gone back to the Kansas Department of Commerce just in the last 10 days when it appeared that we were going to achieve the EDA funding. And we've asked Commerce to reconsider the commitment that they made to phase 3. They gave us $425,000, and we've asked them to reconsider that amount and add to the contribution that they've made. We're somewhat optimistic that they think the project will be worthwhile and that we'll get a little bit more funding from the state at a time when they're doing what everybody else is doing, and that is looking under all of the cushions and in the corners for every dime and every nickel. So, but they've been a great support, and they always ask, you know, how are the city and the county supporting you? And so it makes a big difference. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I know how to stop sharing. So if somebody can help me out with that, it'd be appreciated.
I think if you just push the button at the bottom that said share, I think you can unshare with that.
Unfortunately, it looks like it went away on mine. So
sometimes you have to hover over it, but
yeah, you just hover, should be able to hover over it.
Oh,
with
there we go.
There you go.
I don't know. I know the Lawrence Chamber's on here. Any sort of updates, Bonnie and your team, you want to give to us? And I want to make sure we're moving over. Mandy, Daviana, if you could move over Mary Kirkendall and Mandy, that'd be great. I don't know if, you know, Bonnie, if your team's there, if you want to talk a little bit about.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Steve's going to do the heavy lifting on our end, but we just wanted to thank the county and all the support that you provided over the years. It's vital to our operation. And congratulations to the success of Peasley and BTBC. We value our partnership with you. So I'll let Steve take it away from our vantage point and our ask.
All right, thank you. Very quickly, we've been back in the office full time for, this is the third week. Had done a kind of a split shift for several weeks before that. So far, things have went pretty well that way. We do have the door locked, a few in-person meetings by appointment only, but that has seemed to work pretty well. Most everything else is still being Zoomed, which is pretty common with everybody now. As far as economic activity, things really hit kind of a wall for a while, but we have seen a resurgence in activity. We've got several companies that were working on expansions, and those are continuing. We have a local company that is actually in a position to benefit from COVID because of some of the things they do. They have a contract in place and are basically their facility here is competing with another company location for a pretty major project, pretty substantial investment, and maybe as many as 40 jobs. So we're working with that company and trying to identify some resources that could help make that happen. U.S. Engineering, which had committed to the community essentially the latter part of last year, had paused things when COVID hit. They're on track now and still moving forward. We anticipate they'll be breaking ground somewhere around the 1st of October. Is currently kind of what the projections are. So that's good news. A couple other local companies that were looking at expansions are continuing to move forward. And so I think that there is certainly a mixture of news. We have a lot of companies that have been significantly negatively impacted, but some companies have seen little or no impact in terms of revenues, in terms of sales, and those sorts of things. They're all living in a different world, as we know, in terms of what they have to do to keep workers safe and to maintain their operations. But some have been pretty successful in terms of sales and revenues and have not seen the negative impacts that particularly folks in the hospitality industry in this community have seen, which is, that's certainly a concern. I think will continue to be a concern. And I think Kevin kind of hit on something when he said, everybody is wondering exactly what's going to happen when some of the enhanced benefits go away. If those go away or if there's a replacement, will make a big difference, I think, for some companies over the next several months. So I think that's important. We have talked in the past, and in our write-up, we talked about our entrepreneurial initiative. We've moved forward with that. It looks a little different than what it was going to, but we have moved forward with Kyle Johnson and the folks who are involved with the Launch and Lawrence effort. We are on target or on task right now to have the first of our meetups, bringing mentors and entrepreneurs together. We have planned to do those as monthly kind of mixers or bi-weekly mixers, maybe even. We're going to launch virtually mid-month. Will be the first session, and then the plan is every 2 weeks to have these on a bi-weekly basis. And these will be opportunities for entrepreneurs to pitch their idea before a group of mentors and folks who can basically be a sounding board. The plan will be to have them give, like 3 or 4 of them at a session, give a 7 or 8 minute pitch, then potentially have about that amount of time for people to critique it, because folks who are in the entrepreneurial space talk time and time again about the value of that kind of feedback and the fine-tuning of the product and just the practice and the value that has. So those are going to start here in a couple of weeks. We'll make sure you have the information. We're signing up people now both to participate in those. So if you're interested, we'd really love to have you engaged. And the hope will be, as this goes on, we will get back to a point where we can have actual face-to-face sessions, which obviously has value from the social aspect. But we wanted to get started, and so here in a couple of weeks, we'll have the first one of those, and hopefully those will be successful. The chamber was very involved early on in the information business as COVID hit and people were looking for information. And Lindsay Slater, our communications director, did an incredible job of pulling information together on a number of different topics. And so we still continue to try to be very involved with that. We're working with the city on their strategic plan, their recovery strategic plan they're working on. That's kind of in its final stages of formation and will be moving forward pretty quickly. Have been involved in some recovery task force efforts. Have been really busy. It's been surprising and how much activity there's been. Certainly COVID has been a big part of it, but there's a significant amount of economic activity as well. And then the last thing I'll mention is we've been working with Barack and the folks in Eudora on the company that there was some information, I think, in the paper recently that had been there seeking some assistance from the community in terms of some tax benefit, which looks like a really positive opportunity for Eudora in terms of a manufacturer that has a really good reputation and would be bringing some jobs. And I see Mary shaking her head. She was at the meeting the other evening also, and it went very well. So I think that's a really positive thing for the county. And I'll stop and let Bonnie maybe add a few things if she'd like.
Well, no, just ditto what Steve said, and mentioned this a few times. I think now's the time to double down on economic development. It's very important for our business community to stabilize and to rebound and recover. And so there's a lot of efforts on that. Don't worry, we're not looking for double money. We just have been working very hard because this community and county is very near and dear to our heart. I want to make sure that everybody knew Ryan Raines. He's joining us now. He's been here since March 17th, which coincidentally was the first day the office closed, and we work remotely, so we're not giving him credit for that. I think there was a parade that was canceled that day as well, but
it's all his fault.
But Brian works very closely with Steve and does a lot of the business retention and expansion and some of the startup and entrepreneurship work. So we all have our roles and we overlap somewhat, and very glad to have Ryan on board, and we hope that you can meet him in person soon if you haven't already. Thank you.
Have a few folks from, looks like the Eudora Chamber here. Don't know if you want to say a few words and then talk a little bit about your request. Or no,
I can't see if anyone else is on. This is Mary Kirkendall. And I apologize, I stepped into this as an interim project coordinator less than 2 weeks ago. So I mean, I am slightly in the loop because I've done the job before and I have heard of what this request is, but I mean, really, I'm new coming into this. So my apologies.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if anybody had any specific questions on that request, or do you know if Amy's planning on joining us?
So I'm sorry to say, but she stepped down from her position. No. So I think that I'm here just stepping in, and I'm sorry I don't have much to say.
Okay. Mandy, do you want to give us an update from Baldwin?
Sure. I also am relatively new. I started with the chamber in the middle of February, and as you all know, everything kind of fell apart after that. And being a one-man show, I'm trying to keep it all together, and it's doing fairly well. We've actually got a couple of new members, which is hopeful as we recover economically. There is some concern with what's going on with the Midland Railway because they're a huge draw for tourism, and it's vital for that community to keep that railway in functioning. And on top of it, even when it is in full functioning, it's now with COVID, the Kansas Bell, they are trying to figure out a way to maintain social distancing and keep their business vital. I know they've lost $42,000 just in reservations for this summer due to COVID. But nonetheless, everyone's keeping positive outlook and marching forward. we have 2 events that are on the books for the end of September, the annual golf tournament, and then the end of October, we have the Wine and Brew Fest that typically runs in the summer. And those, of course, are all tentatively being planned and very carefully planned to maintain the whatever that current social distancing expectation is at those times, if they're even able to go. So, and as you may already know, our chamber is super dependent on the events to support the business community, so that money that comes from the county is super vital for our success and maintaining that support. So that's about all I have to report now. I mean, like I said, being new, I'm just kind of learning the ropes, and I know Lawrence has it down pat, so I'm kind of following their lead for next year. So is there any questions that you guys have for me?
Mandy, can you tell us a little bit more about your supplemental budget request?
Yeah, we've maintained a consistent request of $10,000 that we've worked into our budget. So, I mean, and like I said, we run a lean budget. So
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you just a little bit, Mandy. Mandy's with the Baldwin Chamber, and they have not made a supplemental request.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the supplemental request came from came from you.
Yeah, that's my fault. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. I was about ready to explain why we asked for it. But yeah, no, I didn't catch that. You said supplemental. Yeah, we didn't ask for supplemental. We're trying to keep things status quo and keep it lean. I mean, we're gonna, as we have it budgeted this year, just pretty much break even, keeping expenses as low as possible, but taking into consideration the county's funding.
I remember my question now, Mandy. This is me trying to cover up for a mistake there. So, do you expect any funding from the city of Baldwin on the chamber? That was something we had talked about last year.
Defunding?
No, funding from
funding
the city of Baldwin.
We, at this point, we get it through the Economic Development Council, and yes, we should be getting that funding.
But you don't get it directly from the city of Baldwin, is that right? Am I missing something?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah, that's been my understanding in the past, is that the city of Baldwin doesn't contribute to the Baldwin City Chamber, right?
They do not contribute other than being a member.
And that Economic Development Council is a consortium of local, private local folks who work really hard to kind of be an engine for economic development in Baldwin.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I would just add really briefly that I'm pretty familiar with both of these organizations in Baldwin and Eudora. I know the folks who have been doing the work for quite a few years now. There's been a little transition here and there, but I can really speak to the need for support of these organizations. They work so hard with so little, but they offer a lot to Douglas County, both community Eudora and Baldwin. Sounds like Eudora is in a little bit of flux right now with their chamber, but you know, I know that they are working really hard with very, very little financial support, and it's important for both of their communities. I would also just want to speak really briefly to BTBC and Peasley. I have the privilege of being on both of their boards right now, and it's just phenomenal. Each surpassing their projections every time we meet. I'm just so proud of both of those organizations and everything they bring to Douglas County, especially now when we need good news, and also the chamber. I mean, in this moment, we really need some good news, and all of your organizations are helping that part of our work right now. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments they want to make?
I don't have any more questions. I want to thank Kevin, especially. Peasley has grown and grown and grown, and the work that you have done there has been phenomenal. I'm sorry not to be your neighbor anymore, but just really impressed with the work that's been done. And Laverne, I think that was something we addressed last year in our budget, was how many jobs we were creating out of there. And to see that grow at that rate is just phenomenal. I mean, that's congrats to you and your team, and to all of you over at the chamber. We're going to need you more than ever. Some of you really stepped up during those early days of that pandemic, and I thank you for that. And we're going to still need you as we continue to recover. I know many of you are working on these recovery teams, and we're going to really need your help as we figure out how to help us recover and be even stronger as we move forward. So thanks for all your work. I just really appreciate this group. I think sometimes you're unsung heroes. I really believe that, working behind the scenes in a lot of ways. So thank you for all your work.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
Well, if nobody else has anything to add, I really appreciate everyone being on the call today and helping us review our progress. And the commission will be having budget hearings tomorrow and into next week, and then deliberations will begin after that. So with our goal to kind of finalize things and wrap things up by mid-July, if not before. So.
Thank you all for your leadership as well.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.